Hi, happy summer. I hope everyone is enjoying their summer. I wanted to do a quick update since it's been quite a bit since my last post. I wanted to make sure that I am transparent in terms of what is going on and what has transpired in the last 6 months. I also wanted to make sure that I'm probably not going to be doing most updates as it really is a time right now where I'm just kind of managing my symptoms and kind of living life. And so life goes on, and there's a lot more things that I need to focus on rather than my condition. While saying that, I do understand that there are many people that are still struggling a lot with their condition, and I empathize and sympathize tremendously with them because I also was in that condition. And I think sometimes having just like someone to just be a sounding board or just hearing out their journey was for me at times the information that I needed to kind of continue. So last time I had posted was when I finally sort of recovered from COVID. I did kind of let you know that I did have some increase in symptoms that came through because of my infection with COVID. I did have obviously the neurological symptoms that kind of also manifested back in terms of frequency, severity, and just, how it really let me know how much more I had gone through. And going back to it was a little bit of a step back, and obviously it causes a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of depression in terms of how to move forward. Overall, though, the symptoms really managed themselves pretty quickly. I would say within the 6 to 8 week mark, I began to be back at baseline on what I left. And from then, it was a quick going forward and forward into more of a recovery. I have felt great. I think it's a mixture of a couple things, and I will kind of share a little bit. It was a mixture of really coming into acceptance of my disease and my disorder and understanding the mechanisms of how it got there. And so really cutting back on stress, really making sure, I took care of myself in terms of nutrition, in terms of hydration, in terms of exercise. I began a Pilates regimen earlier in the year, and that really helped me in terms of balancing. I think it was a really great partnership with vestibular rehab to do something that would kind of not only mirror but like incorporate some of those exercises, as well as I think also it helped me to really get rid of any and all resemblance of what was my disease. So I had like my bedroom drawers were full of medicines, full of supplements. I had just a lot of constant reminders of my disease, and I personally found it that the constant reminders would almost trigger sometimes some of my symptoms. And so I began to really take into account like my cognitive behavioral therapy in terms of really taking action in my mental health, and I began to really just strip myself off of sickness and really change my mindset. So a lot of work in terms of not in denial of my symptoms, but understanding that I had the power of looking at a disorder in terms of potential control of it, and not letting it overwhelm me to the point of Yeah, loss of control, loss of purpose. And so I just kind of cleaned my room. I haven't really, I hired a personal organizer. She came in and really helped me in terms of just decluttering. You know, as you all know, with long COVID, fatigue it's a huge issue, especially with the vestibular portion of it. You're really dizzy at times. You really don't have the capability of, doing a cleaning. So, like a deep cleaning. So I did hire someone to aid me. I know and I am very cognizant and aware of the privilege that I have, that I am able to do that. But I did, and it just helped me to clear everything. I decided to clear and clean my slate. I got rid of all social media. I did not go into any forums regarding long COVID, regarding vestibular rehabilitation. I talked to my vestibular therapist and I told her, I think after almost 2 years of rehab, there is nothing else that perhaps you will give me that I won't know, or I won't have been putting into practice. I think that at this point, home management, it was going to be my next step. And she agreed, and we put in a home management protocol for me, so that I could follow it. We also put in a physical therapy, like exercise program to aid with POTS, to aid with not only POTS but the vestibular portion of it. Also, just strength training in general. Very light in terms of the steps in the regimen, nothing crazy. I think overall, if I would start from, step one to the last step, it would be a 20-minute workout. And when I say workout, I mean it's not like what you think. It's more of very physical therapy oriented and rehabilitation of movement and functional movement. I did also switch from a rehabilitation for the vestibular portion into more of a visual vision therapy. It is very similar, but the vision therapy is conducted by an optometrist, or a nurse that works in an optometrist clinic. It is a neurooptometrist office that dedicates itself mostly to children in the spectrum disorders. And it really helps them with cognizant issues, with reading issues, but they also have started now putting in a little bit of adults in terms of people with strokes, people with dementia, people with any other type of neurological disease that would need aid in terms of reading, comprehension, cognitive ability. Very thorough. I felt very comfortable. If you are familiar, I did mention Mind Eye in Chicago. Is one of the practitioners that I did go in terms of my vision issues that I had throughout this 2 years. And, they did give me some good therapy, visual therapy, as well as some glasses, prism glasses. And I did go and follow up with Mind Eye, but because it is, further out, I'm not in the Chicago area. I'm not even in Illinois. So for me, it was very cumbersome to go and travel all the way out there for those visits. And so this local practitioner, is very similar to what Mind Eye, the protocol that Mind Eye uses. Obviously not as detailed oriented or as much in depth as Mind Eye, but I found that it was complementary to what my next step would be. I go once a month, so it's nothing often, and mostly would be home management, to kind of just continue with my reading symptoms and or challenges that I've had. To remind you, my left eye was very impacted by COVID. It was also impacted in terms of the vestibular. It is all connected, obviously, but if the vestibular portion, but a little bit in terms of not just nystagmus or the dizziness. I had a lot of vision issues in terms of not only seeing double, but seeing shapes in my peripheral, seeing some kind of shadows as well, a lot of floaters. I had very much light sensitivity. I had trouble reading screens. I could not read screens at all, especially that would cause a lot of challenges in my work because I mostly work in computers, and obviously could not read phones. The scrolling on phones, scrolling on the monitors was impossible. It was an impossible task. I would skip lines. Even when I would read a book, I would skip lines. It was really hard for me to maintain control of my vision and focus. It was really hard for me to focus my eyesight. I would try to read something and I would feel like different filters would come through, and no matter how many different eyeglass prescription changes I would do, it would never be a prescription challenge. It would be because my vision was not correct. Mind you, I did see many practitioners regarding my eyesight, and obviously no one found anything that would be causing it. It was mostly, deemed as a neurological disorder. It was something that was deemed sometimes as inflammation, although they didn't really see true inflammation of the nerve or the optic nerve or cornea, or they didn't see anything objectively wrong with my vision. And so for me, the vision portion, I think, was very anxiety inducing, because I think for anyone losing your eyesight is like it's a fear. And I always, for the 2 years, I always thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my eyesight, or is this going to get progressively worse to the point of no return? I'm happy, very happy to say my vision is very well. It's almost, I would say, back to normal. I have gained my peripheral view now. I am able to see peripherally. I don't have a very tunnel vision. Once in a while I will get the floaters back again. I think that's very normal as well. I mean, didn't have them in the past, but I still do have occasional floaters. I do still see the shadows, and they go hand in hand, or at least I think they are a symptom or a pre-symptom of a vestibular migraine. So I will see out of the corner of my eye and my peripheral view a shadow. It doesn't have any shape. It's just a blob, and it's a black blob, and it will sometimes flutter. Sometimes I will almost like turn my head because I think something is there, but there's nothing there. It's literally like inside my eye. There's something that is fluttering in there. Obviously it's a neurological symptom of a precursor of whatever is to come. Now when I see that shadow, and it's very hard to describe it because it's obviously very subjective, but it feels like someone is waving at me, like a dark hand or a dark blob is like waving in the background. And otherwise, or it feels like something is like really close to me, and it will flutter or it will move, and so I will see it. And if I like sit down and try to look towards it, it obviously goes away. But if I sit down and like stare to the horizon and I look at my peripheral view, I will see it. Like I will see it there. And it doesn't change shape when I see it, but it does almost have a nystagmus, staticky movement to it. Now it doesn't freak me out. It's I've learned to be with it. It's not every time that it comes, but it is often enough that I notice it. I obviously have talked to a lot of practitioners regarding it, and no one really finds anything in literature that would say that is something similar. I have read some kind of stories or just out of acquaintances that potentially have very similar symptoms, that they have something that looks like it. It's not necessarily the same as I manifest it. So mission wise, however, everything that I'm doing so far is working well. I have been really working with a therapist around my mental health, anxiety, depression, to the point where I meet with her maybe once a month or maybe once every 2 months, to just kind of make sure that I'm anchored, that I'm making sure that I am centered and following good practices in terms of self-care and just understanding and rationalizing some of my fears. I am so glad to share that I do not have crippling anxiety anymore, and depression is non-existent. I will share that I did start on Lexapro 6 months ago. It's a very low dose. It's 5 milligrams. I do it nightly. I did see a major decrease in anxiety. And because I did see the decrease in anxiety, I think it really helped me with the rationalization of the dizziness. I don't think, or I can't make the assumption that Lexapro reduced the dizziness, because I don't think it did. I think that Lexapro allowed my body to not react to the fight or flight mechanism in my body, and because I was able to control some of those symptoms, of some of that mechanism, the dizziness became much more manageable. Now, I do have to say, I had to do a lot of work in terms of where I was for my dizziness. So I would say as of December, I probably was around the 75 to 80% recovery. And so Lexapro allowed me to do more than what I was afraid of. So I feel like Lexapro is the little training wheels that you need on your bicycle to get back on. I think when you go through a um, vestibular issue, like whether it be labyrinthitis, neuritis, vestibular migraines, whatever impact there was, there is a sense of dread. There's a sense of loss of control, and there is a sense of anxiety. And so Lexapro for me, it aided in terms of getting my getting back a bit of control over my actions. So I don't believe that Lexapro necessarily decreased my dizziness, but it allowed me to do more things to train my vestibular system. So for example, I was able to travel a lot in the past 6 months. I traveled internationally, something that I would have never thought I was capable of 2 years ago. I'm able to ride a bicycle. I'm able to drive with no issues, with no fears. I'm able to do everything that I was able to do prior to any disease. And because I'm able to do that, it boosted my confidence in terms of my vestibular rehabilitation. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope I'm verbalizing it a little bit better than it goes in my mind. But again, I think that Lexapro allowed me to not be afraid of my own restrictions, or not to view my vestibular symptoms as restrictions. It took away the inhibition, and I kind of just did. So for the past 6 months, I have been living my life. I have been working, I have been volunteering, I have been doing extracurricular activities, I've been traveling, I've been traveling by everything except by boat because I'm scared of deep water. But I've been literally taking every single type of transportation known to mankind. I have not had too many issues with my flights. I have been able to live a normal life, a very normal life. Do I have bad days still? Yes, I do. I have some days that I don't feel the greatest. Some days that I need some rescue medication to help me through. What I'm doing right now is managing symptoms as they come and not letting the symptoms manage my life. So this is where I am. I will share that I did talk to a neurologist that agreed, perhaps, or confirmed, or at least tried to confirm that my recurring symptoms might be associated with MDDS. I think once the anxiety portion came out because of the Lexapro, it allowed me to really logically and analytically analyze my symptoms. And I think at that point I had enough information to speak candidly to a neurologist. And due to the way that MDDS works, it's like a way of, if it's not this, then it might be this. And so after exclusion of exclusions, we agreed that perhaps the last portion of my symptoms were twofold: vestibular migraines and MDDS, and they were kind of feeding into each other. And I had a very mild, I think, because of all the work that I did, I think I had a very mild case of MDDS as I left. So I did and had the opportunity to go to New York and work under Dr. Shao and Mount Sinai to go into the MDDS lab to do some vestibular rehabilitation and go through their study program to see if the last remaining vestibular issues would be worked on by their program. I did that, and the first time I did go through the study, I had an increase of symptoms, which to me meant that perhaps we were in the right path. And subsequently, 4 to 5 weeks later, I had a decrease in symptoms. So the vestibular rehabilitation program through Mount Sinai helped me, I would say, tremendously in reducing the background dizziness. And when I say background dizziness, it's very hard to pinpoint. My background dizziness was intermittent, associated with certain positional changes, with certain movements, and or with symptoms associated with vestibular migraines. But there was always a very small background, what I describe it as a wave, which is like you're in a boat and you're in a little wave, and it was very small, and sometimes obviously intermittent, so it would come and go. Most of the time I would feel that little wave when I'm sick, when I'm really tired, upon or after a vestibular migraine, or when I'm in complete darkness and or laying down in bed, which is kind of goes hand in hand. You're at night, you're tired and you're laying down at night and you're falling asleep, and there's that lull, and that wave never really went away. It wasn't as big as it was before. It didn't disrupt my sleep. It didn't disrupt my life, but it was that annoying wave in the background. And I have to say, on the first study treatment at Mount Sinai, it was tremendously reduced, to the point where I was like, I think I can make it go away. So I went back. Had the opportunity and was invited back for a second tryout. This time it was a little bit more intense because it was trying to reduce the symptom of motion sickness, because obviously especially me, with the severe symptoms, motion sickness becomes an added thing. So I went, and I am very glad to share the background wave disappeared. It went away. It's no longer there. It does exist, and it's still kind of in early stages, because it's only been about 3-4 weeks since my last treatment. But I'm very glad to say so far that the background wave is gone. To me, it is a confirmation that I did not have 3PD. I had MDDS. And whether or not, symptoms would agree or the perception that it may be something different, to me it was, and to me I got the appropriate mechanism of reducing it. As anyone knows with MDDS, you can never cure MDDS. It goes into remission. And I've been definitely aware and cognizant of that. And I think as of now, I can say, I get really emotional that I am in full remission of MDDS. And going forward, I really have to just manage my vestibular migraine issues. My vestibular migraines have reduced as well because of the treatment. I also have noticed, or did notice, that my vestibular migraines did increase the period after some of that study. It did increase the first time and the second time. But again, I think it's when you poke around the vestibular system and then it gets inflamed, you're gonna have an increase in symptoms, and then as it comes down back to base level, it finally levels down. I am still on vestibular treatment medication. I am still on nortriptyline. I have not been able to find anything else that works as best as nortriptyline has for me. I'm still using naratriptan for my abortive. I am still using Lexapro, and I am still using clonopin as an aid for vestibular aid. I have had, after a long flight, probably a couple days later, I did have a really bad vestibular flare-up that lasted about 3 days, but I was able to reduce those symptoms with clonopin. Other than that, I'm really just making sure that I'm taking care of myself and my body, and I wanted to just give you hope that it gets better, that you can live your life, that your symptoms will be manageable, and that they will not manage you. In the meantime, if you have questions, feel free to send those. I'll try to respond as I am able. Otherwise, have a happy summer, and I hope to talk to you soon.